Open your bank statement. Just for a moment. Scroll slowly. Past the big things, and look at the small ones. There's the streaming service you barely watched this month. The app you meant to cancel 3 weeks ago. The cloud storage you don't even remember subscribing to. A membership you told yourself you would use more often, but haven't touched since January. None of them are large charges. Individually, they feel insignificant. They are less than the price of a lunch. But together, they show something unusual about the world we live in today. You're paying continuously for services you rarely actively choose anymore. Think about it. You didn't make a purchase today. You didn't walk into a physical store. You didn't even click a Buy Now button. Yet, money still left your account. At some point, the act of buying things quietly turned into the obligation of maintaining memberships. And it feels normal. It's convenient. No repeated decisions. Smaller monthly amounts. Instant access to everything. It seems like nothing really changed, just the way you pay. As if the only difference was swapping a one-time purchase for a monthly fee. That's the intuitive story we tell ourselves. But that's not what's actually happening behind the scenes. For decades, the logic of business was straightforward. A company sold a product. It got paid once. Then, it had to go out and work hard to sell again. Success meant volume. More units sold. More revenue. But there was a structural problem most customers never saw: uncertainty. Sales fluctuate. Seasons affect demand. Economic shocks hit suddenly and without warning. Forecasts miss the mark. And in the cold, hard world of financial markets, uncertainty lowers value. Volatility makes companies harder to price and riskier to own. So something began to shift. It started in software, then entertainment, then almost everywhere else. The question for a CEO stopped being, how many units did we sell this month? And became, how many ongoing payments are locked in for the next 3 years? That shift sounds small, but it changes the entire economic design of our lives. Think about the difference between buying a generator and signing up for electricity service. In the first case, you pay and walk away. You own the asset. In the second, you enter an ongoing relationship. The product stops being a thing. It becomes a stream. That's what subscriptions really do. They turn products into continuous revenue flows. This isn't just a payment tweak. It's a different revenue architecture altogether. From a company's perspective, the difference is massive. A single sale is an event. A subscription is an asset. Because it brings predictability. And predictability unlocks planning. It supports hiring. It supports investment. It allows for long-term bets that a one-time seller could never take. There's something even more important happening in the stock market. Financial markets started rewarding predictable revenue with much higher valuations. Companies with recurring income aren't valued only on what they sell today. They're valued on what they're expected to keep collecting for a decade. That creates an immense pressure. If markets reward recurring revenue, shifting to subscription stops being an option. It becomes a requirement for survival. Then, technology removed the friction. Automatic payments, cloud infrastructure, digital distribution. Charging you monthly became easy. What once required paperwork and manual billing became background automation. At that point, subscriptions stopped being a niche model. They became the default setting for the modern economy. For us, the consumers, the pitch is simple: less friction, fewer decisions, costs spread out over time. Instead of paying $1,000 up front, you pay $100 a month. It feels lighter. And sometimes, it actually is. But structurally, something changes in your relationship with the world. You're no longer making isolated purchases. You're entering continuity systems. The company's goal is no longer just to sell you something good. It's to keep the relationship active. The old metric was volume. The new metric is retention, lifetime value, how long the user stays, how much is paid over time, how difficult cancellation becomes. This reshapes everything inside the company. The product isn't only designed for your initial purchase. It's designed for continuity, frequent updates, new features, bundles, ecosystems. Not necessarily to sell something new today, but to make the idea of leaving less likely tomorrow. Meanwhile, competitors aren't just fighting for your attention. They're fighting for a fixed, finite slice of your monthly budget. There's an invisible ceiling. A limit to how many subscriptions a human being can realistically maintain. This competition doesn't happen on a store shelf anymore. It happens on your recurring bank statement. Whoever secures a slot in your budget early often keeps it. Because once you cancel, it's much harder for a brand to win you back. The battleground has shifted from impulse buying to long-term retention. Intermediaries benefit too. Payment processors, cloud providers, digital platforms. Every single subscription generates a small recurring fee. Small individually, but massive at a global scale. The entire system begins to operate as a network of ongoing flows. On the surface, this all looks like pure convenience, and partly it is. But functionally, it's revenue stabilization, reduced volatility, predictable cash flow. And in our modern financial markets, predictable cash flow is worth far more than occasional spikes. That's the structural shift. The economy didn't just digitize products. It moved from one-time transactions to continuous relationships. Because structurally, recurring revenue is simply more valuable than isolated sales. When predictability becomes scarce in a chaotic world, models that guarantee it will always expand. Now, go back to that quiet list of automatic charges on your phone. You're not just paying in a different format. You're participating in ongoing contracts that reshape incentives on the other side of the screen. The question for us is no longer only, is this monthly price worth it? It becomes, what kind of system am I reinforcing every time I let this renew? And that's the change most people never really stopped to notice.